Welcome back to On Texas Football's Wednesday night Longhorn Livestream. I'm your host, Amanda Atwell, joined with CJ Vogel and Jeff Howe. How are we doing tonight, guys? We got a bye week this week, a little bit of a break. Nothing to stress about.
There's nothing to do. That's my problem. These bye weeks, there's nothing to do, Jeff. I've got nothing going on.
Catch up on your movies.
I guess I still have some movies here, so.
Speak for yourself. We got Texas men's basketball home opener on Saturday, 2:00, and then I've got a Texas Stars hockey game Saturday night. So got a nice little weekend planned.
I'm going to the beach this weekend, so I'll watch some football on the beach. That'll be fun.
That's a little bit. It's November. You're going to the beach in November.
I mean, Destin is beautiful this time of year, so I hear. So quick little weekend away. I'll watch some college football. We'll watch some of the games that matter this weekend. Y'all make sure to get any questions you have in the chat. We got a little bit to get to today. News of the day. Dylan Berryman opening his recruitment 2026 commit for Texas. But a little bit confusing here, CJ. I saw you talking about this a little bit on the boards. Opening his recruitment, but still 100% committed to Texas. You just want to give some insight on what exactly that means?
Yeah, he tweeted out last night that he was going to reopen his commitment, and that's basically synonymous with decommitting and, basically being back out on the market. You don't say you're in a committed relationship with a significant other and say, hey, but it's all right, I'm going to start going on dates again, right?
Well, open relationships exist, CJ. You could have an open relationship, you never know, and just still be committed.
Well, these open
generally don't work out, but
aren't too fond in the recruiting world these days. So he mentioned to me last night that he was 100% committed to the University of Texas. Since then, in about the last 20 hours or so, he's come out and decommitted from the University of Texas. That was confirmed by R. Jerry Hamilton earlier this evening. That leaves Texas with 3 defensive linemen in the class of 2026, and that leaves Texas right now in the 2026 class with 20 members. Of course, we've been hinting at Texas wanting to get Richard Anderson, the big defensive lineman at Edna Carr, Louisiana, on the campus later on this in the month of November, as well as Texas kind of toying around with some of the big names elsewhere, right? Kendall Gurville committed to Florida. And, of course, you look at Jamion Winfield up there in the DFW area committed to USC. All of these are big game hunting, if you would, for the Texas Longhorns. But right now, Dylan Berryman no longer a member of the 2026 class.
Do you know where he's looking otherwise? What other schools has been recruiting him?
Yeah, Ole Miss had been a school that was very much starting to pry at the Texas commit here. Of course, it's interesting with Ole Miss. Should you flip to Ole Miss, you're now in a position of waiting to see whether or not Lane Kiffin takes the Florida job or the LSU job, or if he will even remain at Ole Miss going into next season. So there's some uncertainty there. Of course, Auburn's another team that is looking for any type of talent right now on the defensive line. Normally they find it. Right now he's a guy that they're keeping an eye on. But the bidding war for interior defensive linemen will never not be relevant in the world of recruiting, Jeff. And Texas right now, with the 3 that they have, they feel good. And I think that they're moving forward into finding an even bigger name for that 4th spot.
Yeah, I think a couple of things have transpired. I think things continue to look good as they can at this point with James Johnson and Rodney Cleveland. And then, with the Auburn staff shakeup with Hugh Freeze getting fired, I think that bodes pretty well for Texas hanging on to Corey Wells. So you look at the 3 in the class, and we've mentioned it, but I can't stress this enough. Like, you lose Travis Shaw and Cole Brevard after this year because they're out of eligibility. I mean, if Hero Canoe decides to come back, you may be looking at, kind of an over-the-ball portal defensive tackle. Other than that, I mean, if you're Kenny Baker and Sark and PK, you're probably feeling pretty good about what you have. And to your point, CJ, whether that's getting Kendall Gurville or, you swing for the fences for Richard Anderson, you're in a position now where, hey, you can be really picky with that last high school take. And I say all that to say, if they don't end up with either, I don't think the staff's really going to sweat it all that much.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I to your point, Jeff, they're not going to go out and get 5 defensive linemen out of the portal again this year, right? there's not a need as desperately as they were in a position this past off season, but there's still room, right? And you should be evaluating the top talent at Texas, whatever position they enter the portal in. And right now, it wouldn't surprise me if they took one, maybe two, a top high-end guy, but you're returning a lot, right? Well, Levon Johnson will be back. Murad Watson will be back. Alex January will be back. And, of course, we haven't seen a whole lot of Myron Charles or Josiah Sharma in SEC play, but those are two guys that this staff really, really likes. Also, what's going to be interesting with this defensive line spot, how big does Justice Terry get over the offseason? Is he that adds 20 pounds, gets up to about 290, 295, and can spin in to play a 3-eye or a 4-eye or a 3 technique there? It's going to be really interesting there because, of course, we've seen him most off the edge and some offset formations here, but it's going to be really interesting. And quarter, yes, of course, Melvin Hill's also a guy to keep an eye on moving forward. He'll be moving into his 3rd year at Texas. That'll be his redshirt sophomore season.
And I was thinking about this the other day, with all these coaching changes, do you think that kind of opens up this season? I mean, this flipping season, do you think that kind of opens it up a little bit more to where we'll see even more of those kinds of flips if Texas has been eyeing some of these other recruits that were committed elsewhere, like LSU specifically?
It absolutely should, right? Texas is in a good spot. We mentioned this over the last year going into this season. Texas having the same coordinator on offense, the same defensive coordinator, the same head coach, the same special teams coordinator. All of that plays towards the continuity that benefits on the field. And while that's true, that same continuity builds towards the next year in recruiting. I was reading a Football Scoop article earlier today, and Jeff, I wanted to get your thoughts here. They were predicting some pretty, I don't want to say outrageous because it all feels like it could happen, but if the dominoes fall elsewhere for 4 or 5 different other schools to open up, man, are you looking at basically a brand new slate of recruits everywhere else across the country that are going to be open to listening or hearing from other schools who are currently committing to schools that might be losing coaches. And it's interesting. Again, we'll talk about how the dominoes fall as the season progresses and we get closer towards signing day, but absolutely, Amanda, I think it's very much one of those things where Texas has its bunch of commits at the moment, and they very certainly could be after guys not even on their radar moving forward because of how these coaching changes fall out.
The other thing that we have to consider, too, is how the staff's going to approach the portal window, because you've only got one portal window now. You don't have the spring window. You've just got the one in January. So, if they don't end up with, linebackers, a position where I could see them going into the portal, if they just evaluate the high school guys and it either doesn't work out or they just don't like what's out there, I could see them going to the portal for a linebacker. I could see them going to the portal for a corner or maybe a safety. So I think keeping some of your powder dry for the portal is really, really, really important to remember, more so than we have in the past few years, again, because you don't have that spring portal window to fall back on.
Yeah, safety is the spot for me early on where I've kind of been circling, because losing Taft, losing McDonald, we've seen what that looks like already. What does that mean if these guys don't take a jump or might be a little slower to taking a jump at the safety spot? Fortunately, hey, that should mean a larger role for Jonah Williams we'll see if he gets a full offseason in the football world.
Yep. All right, we got a little bit more to get to. No Texas football this weekend, but we got a lot of other games. But first, Jeff, can you tell us about our friends over at South Point?
I sure can. Texas football fans score an easy extra point this season when you get to the point at South Point Dodge. South Point Dodge has over 600 vehicles in stock, including the all-new 2025 Ram 1500. Get the real deal today and drive away in an all-new Ram that's proven to last. Plus, you get employee incentive pricing. That's right, you can pay what the employees pay. That is a real deal. So score big today at South Point Dodge. See them off I-35 in South Austin or at southpointdodge.com. Get to the point at South Point Dodge.
All right, guys, if you have any questions, make sure to get them in. Super Chats will jump to the top of our list. And we got one from Freshwater Cajun that is what we were going to talk about. Can y'all provide a guide of who to cheer for to help Texas? BYU versus Tech, Oregon versus Iowa, etc. So why don't we start out with that BYU versus Tech? Because I feel like that's probably one of the most significant ones coming up this weekend.
Jeff, you want to take it?
Well, I was going to let you, because you were all over it.
Hey, you were the one that
your
won.
topic.
Oh, man, I like it.
Yeah.
I almost want to give like a back and forth here, Jeff. I almost want to go game for game and
We
which.
can do that.
But I'll take Texas Tech, BYU, and there's plenty of others here. We wrote down a couple before the show. If you're a Texas fan rooting for Texas to get into the college football playoff, you're all aboard the Mormons here. You should be rooting, painting your body blue and white, rooting for the Cougs, saying BYU is the school for me this weekend. A second loss to Texas Tech very much damages their case for the college football playoff. Of course, right now with the way that things are shaking out in the Big 12, they will have the tiebreaker over Utah. Of course, they will then be a 2-loss Big 12 team as well. Utah sits number 13 in the country, Texas Tech number 8. But that would be 2 losses in conference play for both teams. Tech would then get the nod into the Big 12 championship game to then play BYU again, barring a run unforeseen elsewhere in the conference. But to get a second loss for Texas Tech, a 3-loss Tech in the conference championship would not get a bid into the college football playoff in my eyes. Texas should be rooting for BYU to remain undefeated, to run the table, to be the lone representative in the Big 12. Of course, this would give Texas some life if they were to fall to Georgia or to Texas A&M, making sure that there's a one representative in the ACC, one in the Big 12. That frees up an additional spot for another 3-loss team in the SEC to find a home in the college football playoff.
I will say the benefit to this one is it's at 11 a.m. So they don't get the night game in Lubbock. So that's a little bit of an advantage for the Mormons.
Georgia's going to beat Mississippi State, but man, does that say Georgia -8.5, -8.5? I just feel like that's juicy out there. If I did such things, I would grab that. But Amanda, I want to go to the big TEN conference, and we're talking about kind of off the radar games that may not, people may not be thinking about. If Iowa can find a way to beat Oregon, that's going to set up a game, I think in 2 weeks or maybe the week after, where Oregon and USC play each other. That becomes an elimination game. So what you want to do is you want to look at those top 20-ish Big Ten teams, for example, that have 1 or 2 losses. How can they get another loss or 2 along the way and kind of eliminate themselves? Because I feel like a 9-3 SEC, if it comes down to 9-3 SEC team versus 9-3 Big Ten team, I feel like the 9-3 SEC team has an advantage, especially if it's Texas, because you'll have a loss to one of the best Big Ten teams. So none of the Big Ten teams will have a loss that kind of mirrors yours, so to speak. So I would start looking in the Big Ten at those 1 and 2 loss teams where they may be able to pick one up.
The Big Ten has so much more still to play out. I was looking at it earlier. I even tweeted Oregon-Washington at the end of the year might become a play-in game to the college football playoff. Washington, I tweeted about it earlier today. Washington has a very favorable path over the next couple of weeks to play 4 meaningful stakes at 10-1, or what is it, 9-2 going against Oregon. Here's Oregon here, going on the road to Iowa. Not easy. Iowa played Indiana closer than anybody in the country this year. It was a 5-point game, I believe, at the conclusion of that contest. Playing at Iowa is one of those just you hate to see it on your schedule. On top of that, Michigan still very much alive. USC sitting at 19, still very much alive. Michigan's really interesting because I don't think this is the year that they continue their streak over Ohio State. But should they would then have a path to the Big Ten championship game. And there's an opportunity for Bryce Underwood and the Wolverines to play spoiler and find a way into the college football playoff in a year where I think many counted them out about a couple weeks ago. So that right now is where things are. USC, I see folks, Sandman's laughing in the chat at USC, but look, that's one of the most explosive offenses in the entire country. They can score with anybody. Still biting at them right now that they couldn't leave Champaign with the win. But that's a team that I'm looking at saying, hey, you just catch a team at the right time. They can put some wins together. They got Northwestern this weekend. That should be a win. That should be a continuation of their hopes and dreams to make the college football playoff this weekend.
The quicker you can get some of those ACC teams just eliminated, like, Miami's hanging on by a thread. If they can pick up a loss down the stretch, that would be great. As far as the SEC, I know Oklahoma's on a bye this week, but if you scroll down a little bit, I think it's the game below this game on the schedule we're looking at. What you don't want if you're Texas, you don't want Vanderbilt stubbing a toe against Auburn. Like, you want Vanderbilt to keep winning. When Oklahoma gets back in action, as long as you take care of business, and those two teams, those two top 10 wins that you had when they were in the top 10, as long as they keep winning, those two wins they're gonna hold weight with the committee. But you can't have something like Vanderbilt stubbing their toe against Auburn this week.
What about OU? Do you think OU losing more would hurt Texas?
I think it depends on who it's to. If they lose in Tuscaloosa, I don't think that would be held against them as much as losing at home to an LSU team that's probably going to be a 6-win team at that point.
I think that's a great point, but at the same time, you need Oklahoma to lose to get into that 3-loss column in case you end up there if you're Texas, right? And then you would have the head-to-head win. You would be sitting, again, you'd be given the benefit of the doubt, as I've mentioned previously, by the committee over Oklahoma because of that head-to-head. You need them to lose at least one, and that's where you sit moving forward. Amanda, give me your thoughts real quick. A&M right now, I think it was a 8.5, 9-point favorite over Missouri. Mm-hmm. Missouri doesn't have a quarterback. Is that a game that folks should be looking at being upset alert?
I can tell you from what I've heard from Aggies, they don't feel comfortable with it. I mean, it might be the battered Aggie syndrome. Very well could be.
It's about that time.
And you can't blame them for that. I mean, they found a way to lose to much worse teams previously.
Yes, they have.
At the same time, A&M kind of has everything rolling right now. Their defense is questionable some weeks. I mean, you let Arkansas put up over 40 points on your defense, you can have some question marks there. But they've also won some games in a pretty dominant fashion. They have two of the best wide receivers in the country. And I mean, they look good on all other accounts. I picked them to win this week, but at the same time, a road game, weird things happen in the SEC all the time. Teams that should not win all the time. I believe Mizzou has a freshman starting quarterback, so that's a bit of a concern there. I don't know. I would predict them to win this game. I could see it also getting pretty weird because it's not at Kyle Field. I mean, I would love it to get a little weird, but we'll see.
I want to see the one thing I want to see in that game. I want to see how Missouri defends Texas A&M, because Texas has better personnel, but there's a lot of stuff. If Missouri has success, Texas should be able to replicate that when they play down the road. So I don't think Missouri's, unless A&M just has a bunch of turnovers and is just out of sync all day, I don't see a path to Missouri winning that game. But I do want to see how Missouri, that defense, matches up with A&M offense.
Yeah, unless it's like, to your point, Jeff, if it's a kind of a repeat of that A&M Auburn game, in which it's kind of a fluky game where, Missouri stays in it. They're being outgained by 300 yards, but they keep it a one-score game at the end. Look, that's the only way I see this ending up in Missouri's way. Unless, look, Missouri has a great run game. I would expect Texas A&M to sell out, put 7 or 8 in the box at every point and say, hey, freshman quarterback, go beat us. We don't think he can do it, and I don't think he can do it. But that's the one recipe there. I do want to go back to Vanderbilt real quick, because I think it's huge for Texas to have gotten that head-to-head win over Vanderbilt. They play Auburn this weekend. I mentioned, or it was mentioned earlier, you'd probably prefer Vanderbilt to win this game for that win for Texas over Vandy to continue to look good. But if they beat Auburn, a team who has a great defense but can't score a lick on anybody, they then have Kentucky, and that's a win-and-get-in game at the end of the season in Neyland. That is a spot in the college football playoff that, if you're Texas, looking at what you have available or what you have ahead of you, that's a game where you look at Tennessee saying, do us a favor, knock Vanderbilt out final week of the season. You need to have Vanderbilt and Oklahoma, in my opinion, with 3 losses going into the final week of the season. Because, look, winning against 2 top 5 teams is doable as you sit right now at number 11. But to sit here and say that going to Athens and winning and then hosting Texas A&M are probable for Texas, I'd be sitting here lying to you. So, Texas, you need to plan, and SEC fans, you need to plan for a couple of other losses across the way.
I will say you brought up a good point about the Mizzou run game, because the one big weakness seen on and off with A&M this season is their run defense. That's where they've had a lot of issues. So I feel like if Mizzou's going to have a shot, that's where the shot's going to need to be, because that's where A&M has been exposed a bit defensively.
I think there's a chance, and again, I don't have to focus on Georgia because I'm not in the Moncrief complex putting the game plan together. But I think it's interesting that Texas could bookend the regular season playing two guys that I think have been the two best defensive players in the country this year, starting out with Arvell Reese and then ended it with Cassius Howe. To me, those have been the two best non-Texas defensive players I've seen this year.
Yeah, I hard to disagree with those two. I would also toss in David Bailey at Tech. I think he's been fantastic. Yeah. Those Tech edges, Jeff, I think have been unbelievable this year, and that's why their defense. I was doing some numbers on the points per drive allowed and scored across SEC and top 25 teams. Texas Tech has the number 2 defense in the country this year on points per drive basis, 0.88 points allowed per drive. Those edge rushers are fantastic, and they're going to need it against Bear Bachmeier coming up this weekend. But, Jeff, I wanted to get your thoughts looking a little bit more towards that Mississippi State and Georgia game this weekend. For both of you guys, look, Texas was on the field 172 snaps back-to-back weekends. Kentucky, Mississippi State goes quick. We saw how quickly that can add up for Texas at a given time. Just give me y'all's thoughts on how impactful another 80-snap performance for the Mississippi State offense could be for the Georgia defense as they then turn around and prepare for Texas, another hopefully physical game right afterwards.
The Mississippi State offensively will pose you some problems. I mean, we saw that. I think their tempo, if they can run the football against Georgia, which they should be able to. I mean, Florida was able to move the football. Florida just didn't. They just couldn't come up with those couple of plays they needed to in some third down situations to extend that game. But they'll give you, they've got speed and playmaking ability on the outside. So, yeah, I think, CJ, it's not just the plays, it's the plays in concert with the tempo Mississippi State runs, that they can get some tempo going and keep Georgia on the field for a little bit. Yeah, you can tire out that Georgia defense. But, look, like I said, I don't think Georgia's going to lose that game. But if that's a 31-28 game in Georgia's favor going into the fourth quarter, I'm not going to be surprised at all.
Yeah, the thing with that game is, I mean, Texas went into that game thinking – don't think Texas is going to lose this game. Yeah, it's not going to be great because it's on the road. But Mississippi State's offense showed a lot more than what I think most of us expected to see. It's a much better team than it was last year. And this Georgia team isn't quite the same that it was last year. It's a much more beatable team. They've played everybody pretty even with the exception of Kentucky. So, I mean, I think Georgia's going to win. But, I mean, at the same time, I wouldn't be exceptionally surprised if something really strange happens. The one other game that I don't know if y'all mentioned, the Notre Dame-Navy game. What are your thoughts on Notre Dame? I've seen a lot of people online complaining that, Notre Dame should not be currently in the college football playoff based on just who have they beat. They have 2 losses. Who have they beat? USC, and that's about it.
Yeah, I feel like we get to this point of the year and complain about Notre Dame every single year. And this year, I think it's deserved, right?
Join a conference.
I'm with you. Look, I'm with you. But 6-2 Notre Dame, look, they've got 2 losses. I'm actually, with the majority here, kind of surprised that they're 8 spots over Miami, right? Given the head-to-head there. But if you're Texas, if you're Oklahoma, if you're one of these 4 ACC teams that the committee just kind of picked up and spit on and threw in the teens here, you'd like Notre Dame to lose another game. I don't think it'll happen this weekend against Navy, but we have seen Navy beat up on some big, bad SEC defenses, right? Not too long ago, last January, they kind of smacked around Oklahoma. So it's not, it's not a foregone conclusion that this is a win for Notre Dame. The one game for me is, if you're a fan of rooting against Notre Dame, that Pitt game is the best opportunity for Notre Dame to fall later on this season. Pitt needs to be the team to step up and kind of take down Notre Dame for the rest of these teams on the fringe here. So that's the one that I have looking forward to. Otherwise, look, Stanford's not competitive, and Syracuse with a backup freshman quarterback, just a tough spot for another loss down the road.
Yeah. All right, we'll get to some more of your questions right after we hear from our friends over at Advanced Pain Care.
Pros know the pain stops here.
Physical therapy helps me as an athlete
then and now. And do I still need therapy? Yes. And Advanced Pain Care helps with that.
Injuries will stack up. They'll add up. You can't let those injuries get you down, and Advanced Pain Care has been very helpful for me.
We can help with whatever's got you down, from nerve damage to our spinal cord stimulator. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Same-day appointments available.
Advanced Pain Care. The pain stops here.
All right, if you guys got any questions, make sure to get them in the chat, and we'll try to get to them. Super chats jump to the top of our list. We got one here from All Right Cubed. There's 4 more eliminations rounds weeks, and we only have to play in 3 of them. But I would say we have the shortest stick on the 3 we have to play in as far as the opponents go. I don't know what y'all think about that.
I usually, I always wonder when a team gets on a bye and, like Texas on a 4-game win streak, do you want the rest or do you want, to keep playing for momentum's sake? Like, hell no, this is one of those times where the bye could not have come at a better time. Like, you just put your feet up, rest a little bit, and get ready for this stretch. I love the fact that while I think Georgia's, the chances are pretty high, I think, especially that game in Starkville's an 11 a.m. kick, by the way. So I think the chances are pretty high Georgia's going to be in a dogfight while you're sitting in Austin watching it on TV. I really like the way that sets up for Texas. But yes, 3 weeks, but there's going to be 3 really tough weeks. And I mean, look, Arkansas's got its issues, but man, you don't think Bobby Petrino would love nothing more than to come to DKR and beat Texas, even though I don't see that happening. But
is that the game you look at, Jeff? I know we talk about trap games often. I don't expect that game to necessarily be a trap game, but look, they can score on anybody. Split 2 top 5 teams. It's one where Texas cannot come out flat.
That's the game where I want Sark to treat that one like 2021 Texas Tech. If you feel like you need to score 70 to feel good about your margin, then go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely.
And Arkansas's defense is bad enough to where a 50 burger might be realistic.
You could score 70 on Texas Tech or on Arkansas.
Dude, they're bad. They're so bad on defense.
I mean, do you think like this game could feel like does it feel like a rivalry again yet to you guys? I mean, I know you go to Fayetteville and everybody's pretty hated in Fayetteville. It's not a fun place to play, but I just haven't seen it among the younger Texas fans that it feels quite like a rivalry again. A lot of us don't have extended family in Arkansas that reminds you how much they hate the Longhorns.
I do, so that's unfortunate. But I feel like and for the foreseeable future for the next few years, Arkansas is going to be one of the permanent opponents. But I do feel like at some point Texas fans will treat the Arkansas game kind of like traditionally they've treated the Texas Tech game.
Yep.
It does mean a lot more to them than it does to you, but it's still fun putting them in their place, reminding them who they are and where they stand in life.
Yeah.
It's one of those games it's almost in a way unfortunate for Texas because you get nothing out of beating them. But if you lose that game, then they get the world, right? And that's the case.
Baylor, yeah.
Yeah. So it's tough to then match that emotion from the Texas side, right? That passion going into the game. To your point, man, it doesn't feel like a rivalry game to me. I mean, they've played 3 times in the last 15 years. It doesn't really have that same intensity as I'm sure it does for a lot of the more seasoned Texas fans in the chat. And I know I might get some flack there, but I don't care about that game as much as I'm sure a lot of others do. And I'm sure there's a generational divide as a result of that. Hopefully over the next few years, that's something that Texas can build back up and we can start to experience a little bit more because look, to your point, Jeff, I mean, this is just Texas A&M Texas Tech and an SEC logo. That's exactly what they are. Yeah,
I will say, fun fact, I think my first Texas game ever was Texas-Arkansas. It was in the Cotton Bowl. I don't remember what year it was. I was around first grade or so, and we lost, and an Arkansas fan made my brother cry. So that's
your brother.
It's a core memory. But yes, I completely agree with it feeling kind of like Texas Tech. Like I moved up to Amarillo to work in sports, and I really did not realize how much Texas Tech fans hated us, but I discovered it very quickly being a Longhorn in the Panhandle. So, I mean, it does. I definitely feel that where if they win, it means a lot more to them than if we beat them of what it means to us. Oh, thank you. Yes, that was my first first ever Texas football game. I was in kindergarten.
29-6, I think Arkansas won that game.
Yeah, it's very sad for my brother.
I loathe Houston nut, but I digress. No, like with the Arkansas game, like you got to remember, like for me, I just know the rivalry because I know the history of it. But like I was in the second grade the last time they were together in the Southwest Conference, and then Arkansas left for the SEC, and it was an afterthought at that point. So it doesn't. I respect the history of it, but like it doesn't mean anything to me. If you told me Texas had a non-conference game scheduled against Texas Tech, that would mean more to me than playing Arkansas.
Yep. Yep. I have a great uncle that reminds me how much they hate Texas every single time I see him. So a little bit different there. But moving on to bigger game Texas has coming up is Georgia. We got a question from Zachary. What are some things Texas has proved to us this season that could potentially help us beat Georgia? What do you guys think?
I will spoil something for football theory that's coming up on the channel tomorrow, but Sark figured it out a little too late in the regular season meeting, but in the SEC championship game and the numbers show this year, utilizing pre-snap motion on offense and targets to motion. Those are like the two things that really worked against Georgia last year. It's two things Texas is really good at this year. Look, this running game is what it is, right? It's not going to be a deal where, oh man, Texas is going to go rush for 200 yards against Georgia. But my thing is, can you eliminate the bulk of the negative plays you had against Georgia and run it well enough to where you can continually go back to be able to run the football the whole game? Couldn't do that in either game last year.
No, especially not in that game early on in the season in November. If you can live against Georgia 3.6 to 4.1 yards per carry with your running game and limit the negative plays, to your point, Jeff, you can find ways to build off of that, right? You can find ways to have an effective play action game or some of the longer developing plays in which you carry out a fake. You know, that's something that Texas in neither game was able to do. The one thing that Texas found out against Georgia in the SEC championship game is, hey, we've got guys on the outside that we can have success with throwing the ball to them, right? Matthew Golden had a huge day. DeAndre Moore went for over 100 yards. That should translate this year. And Amanda, you mentioned this isn't a Georgia team that we've seen of late. In fact, it's kind of been the opposite. Their offense is a top 10 in efficiency. Their defense, not necessarily up to Georgia standard. I think, of course, that secondary, not necessarily very good as well. So does that mean Texas can throw the ball all over the yard? It certainly mean that it could if Texas sticks to its 11 personnel look and starts utilizing motion once again. But, of course, it would greatly help if Texas ran for more than 40 yards, which I don't think they got in either game last year.
I think, too, the other thing that I'll talk more about this next week, too, but, you know, Texas, I don't know if anybody's realized that Texas is number 2 in the country against the run defensively and shut down a Vanderbilt run game that had been really good. Like Vanderbilt came into that game with a top 20 run game, and it was non-existent against Texas. And along with the turnovers and the pressure Georgia was able to get, one thing I really felt like Georgia did in the 2 games last year that didn't get enough credit is exactly what I said Texas needs to do. They didn't overwhelm Texas running the football, but they ran it effectively enough that Mike Bobo and Kirby never felt like they could go away from it or that they couldn't run it. And it just so happened that I don't know how healthy he was, but 2 of the games where a relatively healthy Trevor Etienne was on the field last year were the 2 games against Texas. Yeah. So I thought that was really underrated last year, was Georgia's ability to just kind of run it well enough to keep going back to it. If they can't do that this year, any chance Texas has to turn the game over to its pass rush, that's a win for Texas.
And you mentioned secondary. As far as Texas's secondary goes, what do you think we're going to look like on the injury front there? Because that was one of the big pain points in that fourth quarter against Vanderbilt. I mean, Taft targeted to be back for this Georgia game. I mean, optimism considering he was practicing and he was questionable for Vanderbilt that he will be back for Georgia.
CJ, I don't know about you. I just think it's personnel more than scheme with the secondary. I mean, I hate to simplify it that much, but that's kind of where I am with the secondary.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. Of course, I actually got the all-22 right before we went up, and I've been watching a little bit of the Texas secondary there. It was a inverted Tampa 2 look that ended up being the 75-yard touchdown there. Your number 2 ran a corner route, and instead of sitting at the sideline there, railed it up, and that's where Pavia found him wide open. Your corner has to drop back. If he doesn't have anything in front of him, well, your safety's taking the deep post over the top. That space is going to be voided. Your corner has to find work somewhere. And normally when you don't have work in front of you, what that means is just keep dropping, right? Don't let anything over the top of your head, and that's where Texas did not. Jeff, to your point, I think personnel-wise, your safety's returning, or it's going to be huge, right? Mm-hmm. Michael Taft, we know him as the mouthpiece of this team. Jalen McDonald, you can put him in the box, you put him back deep. Those are 2 very instrumental players for the Texas Longhorns. What's going to be interesting is what does that personnel look like at cornerback when Texas goes to Athens? Because we hadn't seen Cade Phillips play any snaps since Florida. He gets about 20, right? What is Warren Roberson, who saw about 15 snaps? How does he figure into this conversation? Kobe Black, about 15 snaps. Does Texas continue to rotate on the road in Athens? My best bet is probably not. And I say that because Texas just played 88 snaps against Mississippi State and Starkville. Manny Muhammad played all 88, and you saw Jalen Gilbo play 78. So they're going to find their tune. Now, is there a change from now until they go to Athens? That's what we'll have to wait and see. But right now, I would say, to your point, Jeff, that's absolutely going to be the case. Getting the safeties back will help alleviate a lot of the issues we saw late in that fourth quarter against Vanderbilt.
And the one thing Georgia's got this year that they didn't have last year, they've got a wide receiver 1. Like Zachariah Branch is a wide receiver 1 for them. They didn't have that last year.
Yeah, they got some receivers that can catch this year, something that they haven't had for the last 2 years.
All right, we'll get to some more of your questions after we hear from our friends over at Von Lane. From Texas football Saturdays to NFL Sundays, from ACL Fest to Formula One, this fall is stacked, and Von Lane is a smart way to get there. Forget TSA lines or fighting I-35 traffic. With Von Lane, you board in minutes at luxury hotel terminals. Then it's just 22 big first-class seats, each with Wi-Fi, outlets, and an onboard attendant bringing snacks, drinks, and yes, even beer and cocktails. You'll arrive relaxed and ready for kickoff, the concert, or family time. And with booking open through December, you can also lock in Thanksgiving and Christmas travel now. Go to vonlane.com, use code OTF25, and save $20 on your first ride. Von Lane, elevated regional bus transportation. I'll make sure to get any more questions you have in. Once again, Super Chats will jump to the top of our list. We have another one from All Right Squared, or Square Cubed. It's math hard. I'm so impressed that we've maintained our dominant D against the run, considering all the DT transfers we have to start.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
No, sorry. I was gonna go as long as Jeff did with the silence, and I was like, oh, folks want to see and hear from us. So, no, I'm with you, and I think, obviously, Bo Davis gets a lot of credit for the Texas defensive line. Kenny Baker, obviously, with what the way that he's been able to, develop Alfred Collins, Vernon Broughton a year ago, and keep the level of play as high it is this year. What's really interesting is, I think what gets lost in here is Pete Kwiatkowski's always put out very, very good defensive linemen, right? You go look at Danny Shelton at Washington, Vita Vea, another. These are guys that excel in run defense, and that's what I've continued to see be a true theme of these Texas defensive linemen is, look, they eat double teams better than I've ever seen at Texas. And I think they do a better job of holding the line of defense as well. And you go back and you look at some of these fourth down stops on the goal line. I mean, these guys are eating 2, maybe 3 blocks at a time without giving up much yards. So it's very impressive. I got to give PK a lot of credit. I got to give Kenny Baker a lot of credit because, again, to your point, Amanda, it's the number 2 defense in the country right now when it comes to stops or the stop rate, and it all starts up front. It's been fantastic, and you can tell Anthony Hill or Leon Glafal or Ty Anthony Smith, hey, you're going to have free rushing lanes to get into the backside of that line. They're going to have field days in the chat right now. I'm not sure what's going on here, but we playing some
lots of periods.
Is it Morse code going on? I feel like Matthew started this, but
the 2 things I'll say about the interior D line, again, I can't say it enough. Hero Canoe has surpassed any kind of expectation, even the most optimistic expectations I had for him.
Yes.
And Alex January's got his feet back under him, I think, now since coming back from the injury. He's quietly playing some really good football, I think. He's flashed a lot in the last couple of weeks. So, and I like too, CJ, that they've been the last couple of weeks, they've made an effort to try to stop the run, coming out with that tight defensive front where they've got Cole Brevard, January, and Canoe all starting all out with the first defense. So I love the fact that they're devoting resources to stopping the run first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
We got another super chat here from Miracle Martinez. Us elder Texas X's going back to Arkansas. Hate Arkansas probably more than OU. My dad might agree with this. I need to ask him who he hates. He's 70, so he's in that older Texas X's category. He's probably not happy I just outed his age. But I think Arkansas is up there for him as well. I think also just because family relation, if you have family in Arkansas. Yeah, my great uncle's house, the roof is red. He has an entire room dedicated to he's got a lake house in Hot Springs, entire room dedicated to Razorbacks, and he tries to give us a shirt every time we come in town. We reject those shirts every single time. So I've always realized it's a rivalry. I didn't know it was that much of a rivalry since it hasn't been played in so many years.
Miracle Martinez, thank you for the super chat. It's good to hear from you again, but see, that's something that my younger mind could not comprehend, is hating Arkansas more than Oklahoma.
Yeah, I don't think I could ever hate them more than Oklahoma. I do have a friend that went to the Arkansas game last year that had a ticket to be in a suite with Arkansas friends. And the older man that owned the suite said she had to get out. She could not be in that suite, even though she had a ticket. He was so mad there was a Longhorn in that suite.
That makes sense.
If I had a
suite, everybody's wearing my colors, or they're not in my
she
suite.
bought a ticket for it, but
Too bad.
Too bad.
I'm telling you, like Arkansas fans are, the guy in the clip from the wrestling convention. It's still real to me, damn it. Like, nobody told Arkansas fans that it wasn't a rivalry. They didn't get that memo.
I mean, yeah, I guess some of us are just too young. I mean, Marcus, I did the same thing. I just boarded a flight to Lubbock. I purposely wear Longhorn gear in Lubbock just to piss people in that city off. I mean, I did the same thing. Lived in the Panhandle. It was all Red Raiders up there. So I feel you there. Chris has asked us a couple times, Jeff, have you had a McRib yet?
I have not. No, I have not. I didn't even know they were back, and
He asked it like 3 times yesterday, but we didn't get to it because of the shorter show. But I guess you have to answer to that now.
My 7-year-old and I had a conversation in the car today where she made it very clear her disdain for McDonald's. So yeah, we don't eat a ton of McDonald's. I probably will, CB, at some point, but it's not top of mind. It's not top on my agenda right now.
I'll tell you what, I could eat just about anything you give me if it has a McDonald's Powerade attached to it. Oof. To that point though, I've never had a McRib. Never have.
I was a double cheeseburger girl when I ate at McDonald's.
Sandman, you bite your tongue on that. Yeah, no, CJ, honestly, like that. Back when I was balling on a budget, the McDonald's dollar menu used to go hard.
It did,
with the orange high C back in the day. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
it used to go hard. I maybe eat at McDonald's maybe once a year, and it's just if like haven't eaten and it's the only option, then yeah, I'll do it.
It's low on my power rankings of fast food, but look, I'm not a better man than eating McGriddle every morning or so.
I think a Taco Bell is higher for me than McDonald's. That would be my option. Way above McDonald's.
My wife would very much agree with you on that, Amanda.
The quesadillas at Taco Bell, I lived on those in high school. Those were the
last point I'll make here. I can't eat was it the Crunchwrap Supremes anymore? I can't have them. I lost fantasy football a few years ago. Got dead last. It's kind of been a trend of mine over the last few years. I'm not proud of it. But I got dead last, and my punishment, I had to eat 3 Crunchwrap Supremes and then run a 5K.
Oh my God.
I just got nauseous.
And I did it all before 9 a.m. on a night where I went to bed probably around 2:30 or 3. You know, some of those nights, but no, I was not in a great spot for quite a while after that.
That's about how that makes me feel. Okay.
It hurts my innards thinking about it.
Oh
God.
Running a 5K after eating one would be bad enough.
And one of them, they loaded up all the mayonnaise. Oh my god!
They have mayonnaise on those things? Isn't that sour cream?
It wasn't good.
He's having flashbacks. He has PTSD.
That's where the hat throw, by the way.
All right, we can.
There we go.
Yeah. Don't want to think about that again. Sorry, I brought up Taco Bell for you. Bad memories. We got a question from Paxton here. That's in Texas moves up regardless of the Tech BYU game, right? I feel like, I mean, who would think either one would? I don't know. I don't know what my thought was.
Not regardless.
I don't think regardless.
I think Texas moves ahead of a 2-loss Tech.
Yeah, if Tech loses, I think Texas moves up there.
Yeah, that's the thing is if Tech wins that game, you're sitting at both teams at 8-1, 9-1. It's not a guarantee, and that's again why I've been pushing. Hey, if you're a Texas fan right now, you need to be all BYU'd out, rooting for the Cougs.
Yeah, cheering for the Mormons this week. All right, we'll get to some more of your questions. Make sure you get any questions you have in, and super chats jump to the top of our list. But first, we're going to hear from our friends over at Culligan's. When it comes to the water your family drinks and uses every day, you don't want to cut corners. That's why for over 90 years, people have trusted Culligan. And here in Austin, Culligan Ultra Pure has been serving the community for more than 60 years. Culligan Ultra Pure provides high-quality residential water treatment at an affordable price, including reverse osmosis systems, water softeners, and UV purification lights. Whether your water comes from a well or a municipal source, Culligan has a perfect treatment solution for your home. And right now, you can schedule a free water test and save up to $600 when you mention On Texas Football. Culligan Ultra Pure proudly serves Austin, Corpus Christi, Victoria, Brownwood, Pampa, and Plainview. So don't wait. Call Culligan Ultra Pure today at 512-339-2378 to schedule your free water analysis. That's 512-339-2378. Better water starts with Culligan. Oh, we got a comment from your mom. That's her boy. That's her boy running a 5K after eating 3 Crunchwrap Supremes.
Making you proud, Mom.
Something to be proud of. The fantasy, the getting last in fantasy every year. That's something.
That's the disturbing trend we really need to identify here. CJ.
Yeah. Hey, it's not me. It's the players.
How you doing this season?
I put them in a position to win, and they just, they can't.
Do you? Hey, how you doing this season? What's your record so far?
We're above 500. It's rare to be in November above 500. It's rare to not have, looking ahead to the consolation bracket. But hey, I'll tell you this: if I know anything about my fantasy football career, it's going to have an A&M like turn pretty soon, and we're going back right on down to about 5-7.
Yeah, I can't say much. I'm usually pretty good at fantasy football. I think I forgot to draft a running back until the 5th round. 1, that was a mistake. 2, I forgot to set my lineup the 2 weeks I was in France. So
show some care about the league.
So I started out 0-7. So we were not doing great to start.
Taco Bell, you go.
We won the last 2 straight, so we're on a positive trajectory, made some trades. We're doing a little bit better now. And my team's name is You Are Not Worthy. We have Xavier Worthy on it, but he's currently on the bench because he has not been playing well. So that's about how fantasy is going currently. All right, guys, if you have any questions, make sure to get them in. We have a little bit more time here. Let's see what we got. What's the scenario if Wisner decides to return and Baxter? What does that mean for Clark and Simon with Cooper coming in as well? Do we think Wisner is going to return?
Personally, no. I don't have this on any authority, but look, you ran for 1,000 yards as a true sophomore in the SEC, right? You're finding your footing once again. There's enough wiggle. There's enough playmaking ability in his game right now to go to the NFL and be selected. The shelf life of a running back is as long as it already is, right? It's not very long. If you're in a position to make that jump, I think you do. Now, CJ Baxter is really interesting because we haven't necessarily seen much, right? We've seen about 20 snaps over the last 2 weeks since he's gotten back. Haven't seen the big explosive plays. Does that mean he will return to get back to those explosive plays? We'll see. Does he ever get back to those plays, we'll also see. But yeah, I think it's going to be a crowded room once again, especially with a total stud and Derek Cooper coming in.
Yeah, Baxter's got to get healthy. Bottom line. I mean, it's not his fault. I mean, his body's just letting him down. And I think for Christian Clark, I think at that point, going into camp next year, being 2 years removed from the injury, I would expect a better version of Christian Clark next year.
I think the thing with Baxter is something that doctor told us last week was just that kind of knee injury, the fact that it takes some players 2 years to return from, and he's just progressed so quickly. What would another year of just kind of focusing on rehabilitating that joint, because it takes a long time, even after just a basic surgery, it takes a good amount of time to really get back to full strength. If you think about it, you're not on weight bearing for so long, you have to regain all that muscle as well. Yeah. I mean, I've had 3 knee surgeries on my left knee. The muscle has never been the same. My right thigh will forever be larger than my left. There's nothing I can do about it. So for someone like him, just rebuilding the muscle strength, because that's what supports the joint. And then as you're rebuilding that muscle strength, a lot of tightness comes with rebuilding muscle, hence the hamstring issues. So I feel like another full season, that's when we'll find out if he can get back to that level as well.
Yeah, definitely. And this will be a great opportunity for Torrey Beckton and his staff to get those guys right again. I tell you what, I'll go off track a little bit. We've been going off track tonight. Mind me one more trail off the beaten path here, but a torn Achilles right now in the stage in my life, that's fear number 1 in my entire life is a torn Achilles. Number 2 is a kidney stone. So that's where I'm putting things at the moment. But a torn Achilles, man, credit to Christian Clark for fighting all the way back. Yeah. I could not do it. Man, you said it's been a long path to get back to getting that muscle memory correct. Mm-hmm. I'd probably just say chop the leg off. I'll be better, with that one.
I mean, I've been there. So I know all about the injuries. It's not fun. And I mean, ligaments, I've never had a ligament injury. I just don't have any cartilage in my left knee. So that's a little bit different of a story. But when you're completely rebuilding ligaments, that's a much longer recovery. We got a super chat from Rocky P. I've been impressed with Colin Simmons has improved in the run game. Also, Taco Casa better than Taco Bell. That's a hot take.
Is that a hot take? I don't think I've ever had Taco Casa.
Really? There's one right on MLK, I thought. And there one right there next to like Chick-fil-A. And what was that other restaurant? They have margaritas. They have margaritas at Taco Casa, I thought.
Oh, it's Taco Cabana.
I think you're
that's Taco Cabana. That's too many names that are too close together.
Yep, too many taco spots. But yeah, Rocky P, to your point, and again, thank you for the super chat. Colin Simmons has been fantastic. What he does in the run game doesn't get enough love because you only hear about him and his pass rushing ability. He is so quick to shed over the top and then fill. That's something that is so difficult to learn as a young pass rusher who is taught basically get around. Well, if you get around and it's a run, you got to fill that hole that you just created as a result of getting around whatever tackle or tight end you're trying to maneuver against. But he is so quick to fill back into the hole that he created there. I went through with all 22 just now. You could watch just that Vanderbilt game alone and say, yeah, that's probably worthy of being selected in the NFL draft. He was that special. And a lot of that came into that run support.
I don't know if y'all did you watch the mini movie that Texas put out today from that game? There was one of the shot when he sacked Pavia and forced the fumble of him just like staring down Pavia. It looked pretty terrifying. That was my impression of Colin Simmons.
Total stud.
Yeah.
Total stud. And again, just real quick, imagine being a kid, 15, 16 years old. You got big tests on Friday, and then all of a sudden you say, hey, I get to go play my favorite sport. I get to go play football. And you're playing a defensive line that has Colin Simmons and Alex January on it. Kids had to do that for multiple years against Duncanville. That'd turn me into a basketball kid or baseball kid immediately.
Here's my thing with Colin Simmons, and I said this about him coming out. He reminded me different types of players. but reminded me a lot of Alex Okafor when I watched Alex Okafor in high school, just from the standpoint of you could watch them, and there were clearly games where neither one of them had it turned on, and they could get away with it. And you're wondering, like, okay, like, I wish I could have seen more. But then in high school, when they did turn it on, you're like, oh my God, this guy looks like a future, NFL draft pick. And it was just with Colin Simmons. Is that motor, is it going to stay on all the time? And just like it did with AO, that motor staying on all the time. And now we're seeing the development pretty rapidly.
Yeah. It's fun stuff.
Yeah. All right. We'll get to a few more of your questions right after we hear from our friends at Hayes City Store. Can you tell us about them, Jeff?
Talking a lot about food, let's talk about one of my favorite spots in the area. That's Hayes City Store, because there's very few restaurants that once you go to them, you just know it's special. And Hayes City Store is one of those places. Scratch-made Texas comfort food is what they're all about. They've got the famous truck stop enchiladas, the award-winning chicken fried steak, the homemade desserts. It's all good, and it's all made from scratch. They've got live music 6 nights a week, 50 beer taps, ice-cold long necks, and tasty margaritas, plus 13 TVs in the ice house. Is perfect for your game day setup, whether that's Saturday or Sunday. And if you're there on Sunday, get the brunch menu from 10 to 3. Hayes City Store is dog friendly. They've got a tree net for the kids, plenty of room to run around. So gather up your whole crew, head on out to Hayes City Store for more information. Check out the website, HayesCityStoreTX.com. Hayes City Store, it's uniquely Texas.
Thank you so much, Jeff. If you have any more questions, make sure to get them in. We got time for a couple more. We got one from Shivam. Will Hero Canoe come back next year, or will he get drafted? What do we think?
I think he's kind of playing his way into that draft conversation. And I think NFL teams right now value Texas defensive linemen much higher than I think a lot of folks on the outside do. And I think the best case of that is Vernon Broughton going in the 3rd round a year ago, Alfred Collins going in round 2. Look, those are guys who it took a long time for them to get to where they were by the time that they were done with their Texas careers. And I still was surprised that Vernon Broughton ended up in the 3rd round. But they do so much work on the inside there. I absolutely think Hero Canoe is going to get drafted this year.
All right. We got a super chat here from Victor. Playoffs aside, what win means more to the program, getting over the Kirby hump or beating an undefeated A&M team? What loss would be more painful? I think the A&M loss would be more painful, but I think getting over the Kirby hump in Athens might be more meaningful.
100% for this program, because you played your way back into where you're in the mix. And for you to get over that hump, look, if you lose in Athens, what's the narrative going to be? Sark can't beat Kirby, still can't beat Kirby. So you go to Athens and win that game. That's a really good way to start shutting people up about the trajectory of your program and have people realizing, yeah, okay, Texas really is like a for real legit program. They're everything we thought they were in the preseason.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and I mean, you can say what you want about A&M's likely going to be 11-0 going into the Texas game unless Mizzou or South Carolina pull off a miracle, or Samford. I don't think Samford will pull off a miracle either. Nice, fun game in November. But I mean, if you look at A&M's schedule, they will have played every single bottom half of the team in the SEC. So, I mean, yes, that game will be meaningful. It's an 11-0 team. Their best wins right now, Notre Dame, a now unranked LSU team. So I think beating a Georgia team that on the road in Athens is definitely going to be more meaningful, especially you beat Georgia in Athens as well. You have that momentum of you have the confidence going into that A&M game as well that I think you need going into a game like that where they've been talking a lot and they are very, very high on themselves coming into Austin, and they will definitely be playing with quite a chip on their shoulder.
And it's interesting where the two teams would stand, because for A&M, if you're 11-0, you're a lock for Atlanta. You're probably a lock for the playoff period at that point. If you're Texas, that's do or die, and it's a home game. So yeah, I think in that scenario, an A&M team that in theory doesn't have a lot to play for, and Texas fighting for its life, a loss to A&M would be much more painful.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know, it's a pride thing with the rivalry games. You don't want to lose to A&M. It's bragging rights for the next year. I mean, with OU, you beat them, they still yap all year. I mean, but A&M, you just want to shut them up for another year. And especially since it's just that rivalry just now getting renewed, there's a lot of emotions behind it.
I love that game is in a position, if both teams take care of business leading up to that game is going to matter. a lot. And that'll be 2 for 2 in terms of that game matters for the SEC picture, the CFP picture. Like that's a hell of a way to bring it back.
Yeah.
Definitely. We got an interesting question from Chris that I wanted to get to before we're done. Would I ever clone my cat? I actually have thought about this. My vet in Amarillo actually did cloning technology for my cat. Yes, my vet in Amarillo cloned Barbara Streisand's dog. And I think he cloned Ellen DeGeneres' dog as well. And he told me he could clone Nacho, but it would cost $10,000, which was about a third of my yearly salary in Amarillo. So did not proceed with that at the time, but I have thought about it. I don't think I'll be cloning Nacho, though. Having a litter of Nachos would be great. I could adopt them out. Nacho Supreme, a litter of Nacho Supremes. Yes, would love that.
Tracy, I totally agree.
Yeah, but I think when you're that rich, you can be weird all you want, you know?
No, that's weird. Get a new one.
No, we
Get
can't.
a new dog, get a new cat.
We can't clone Craig either.
No. Craig is a cyborg, by the way. So there will be no need to clone him.
All right, we're getting a little off topic. We've run out of time, so good to see you guys. Fun show tonight. Y'all make sure, yeah, that's enough internet for the night. Y'all make sure to tune in to Coffee and Football tomorrow morning for On Texas Football's Wednesday night live stream. I'm Amanda Atwell. That's Jeff Howe and CJ Vogel. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. Have a great night and hook 'em horns.
Hook 'em.